Hello and welcome, I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching NewsX World. Let's first take a look at our top stories. White House officials have said that Trump isn't thinking about speaking with billionaire Elon Musk after stating the former political ally had lost his mind. Trump says a review of Musk's government contracts as their feud continues will take place. Donald Trump says that fresh trade talks with China will take place in London next week as the president signals that Chinese leader Xi Jinping has agreed to restart the flow of rare earth minerals. Meanwhile, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says the nation is recalibrating its relationship with China. President Trump says he still hasn't decided on a Russian sanctions bill yet after pressure from Western leaders in a bid to push Russia towards a ceasefire deal. Meanwhile, Moscow has launched overnight strikes that have reportedly killed 2 in Kharkiv, following strikes across Ukraine that killed 6 and wounded at least 80 the day before. The Israeli army says that 10,000 further soldiers are needed, including 6,000 combat troops, as it announces the death of 4 soldiers in Gaza. Meanwhile, local health authorities say 38 people died in Israeli attacks on the enclave yesterday. Meanwhile, Israel has warned that it will continue striking sites in Lebanon if Hezbollah is not disarmed. This comes after significant attacks in southern Beirut, where underground drone factories were reportedly targeted, despite a ceasefire being in place since last year. US President Donald Trump has warned Iran, saying there is going to be no enrichment as both nations look towards striking a nuclear deal. Iran have previously rejected a US nuclear deal after 5 rounds of talks and deny their nuclear project is for weapons. Salvadoran migrant Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was mistakenly deported to his home country, has been returned to the US to face 2 federal criminal charges relating to human smuggling. El Salvador President Nayib Bukele says that the Trump administration asked for his return. A former girlfriend of Sean Diddy Combs has testified for a second day in the music mogul's sex trafficking trial. Under the pseudonym Jane, she described feeling pressure to engage in sex with male escorts and that freak-offs left her in pain and with infections. Combs denies all charges. We start this hour in North America. A showdown between 2 powerful figures, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, is now threatening America's space program. The US president has hinted he may cut off billions in federal contracts to Musk's companies, including SpaceX and Starlink. This comes after Musk publicly blasted Trump's spending bill, calling it an abomination. Trump hit back, calling Musk crazy and scrapped a planned coup. Speaking aboard Air Force One, Trump said he'd look at everything and would act only if it's fair to both Musk and the country. Musk, who once served under Trump, has fired back, even threatening to ground NASA-linked launches. This could push the US to rely on Russia again for space access. NASA is now looking to Boeing's Starliner, already plagued with delays, while the Artemis moon program faces uncertainty. The fallout has hit Wall Street too. Tesla lost $100 billion in value over the past couple of days. And while Trump says he's not thinking about Elon, the escalating feud may have global implications. Let's listen in.
Honestly, I've been so busy working on China, working on Russia, working on Iran, working on so many. I'm not thinking about Elon.
Are there plans to contact?
I have he does well with Tesla.
Do you have any plans to speak with Mr. Musk? This was one of your closest advisors.
No, I don't have any plans. Somebody.
Well, joining us to discuss all of these developments is Shri Das Gupta, a geopolitical expert. Shruti, thank you ever so much for joining us as always. Of course, this public feud has many ramifications, not just for public relations, but also government contracts, as we've mentioned. Let's take it back, though, to these outbursts that we've seen on social media from both of these extremely influential men. This has continued with Trump calling Elon Musk crazy. Elon Musk continuing his tirades. What's the significance of the world's richest man and arguably the world's most powerful man having this level of public dispute?
Greetings to you, Joshua. Thank you for having me. The amazing part about this throwdown is that it's the end of a bromance that many saw coming months in advance, because they're two very influential and very, very one-man show kind of people. So everybody was wondering how long will this relationship last, and it took just one, the big beautiful bill, to kind of break this down into a very, very public throwdown between the two of them, both of them using their own self-owned social media platforms to fire word bombs at each other. So Trump owns Truth Social while Elon Musk owns X, and they've been at it live, contradicting each other or blaming each other for something bad. Now, Trump's big beautiful bill is the problem between the two of them. Trump likes to call it beautiful, but according to Elon, a bill can either be big or it can be beautiful. Why? Because if it's a big spending bill, he has been working on Doge to kind of save a lot of money for the US, a lot of extra spending, because the US debt ceiling was hit last year and they've just barely managed to extend it indefinitely right now. But what this basically means is that right now, whatever the government earns pays a large section of it goes to paying back the loans that it has taken against the various assets it owns. The big beautiful bill is another giant expenditure. And Trump claims that Elon is sour because the EV mandate is being taken back, which means that all the cuts and all the tax cuts, etc., that were being offered for EV, that is electronic vehicles, is being taken away. But Elon Musk says, I've been very clear since the beginning that the electronic vehicle mandate, take it away, it doesn't matter. Those who want it will support it. But do not spend extra, because this particular bill, when it passes through and comes into action, would automatically tumble the US economy into a debt cycle that it is irrecoverable from. If this continues by next year, it'll add 2 trillion to US debt, and it would continue to increase exponentially. So according to Musk, this big beautiful bill is a big ugly bill, which is going to make sure that the ship of America sinks completely. On Trump's side, he feels that this is a necessary expense that would keep US dominance in place. So it's a war of economic ideologies between the two of them, which has come down to a very personal level, which the world is enjoying with popcorn, but it's very ugly underneath.
Yeah, Shruti, let's now turn our attention to these large government contracts that Trump's given to Elon Musk, and Musk has had for some time now, looking at SpaceX, Starlink as well. What's the significance, not just for Elon Musk and his companies, where we've already seen Tesla stocks drop by 3-figure billions, but also for the US government, given the amount of outlay that's already happened and given the impact that Elon Musk vacating these contracts might have?
Well, it's not. Trump would like us to believe that it's very easy to give contracts. It is not. There is a process to it. There is a certain amount of scrutiny that a company has to go through. So I'm sure Elon Musk and Starlink has passed through a lot of those hoops, not just during Trump era, but also during Biden era. So the contracts to be cancelled would probably take just a signing of a bill, but it would end up in a lot of wasteful resources. Half-done projects is just money lost. Elon can take his, as a private company owner, he can take it to somebody else. He's also exploring different collaborations. What stops him from offering his collaboration to the Chinese or the Russian or even Indian? So Trump taking away government contracts from Elon would not work in US favor, because as a private company, they can go anywhere they want. You have to understand that Biden administration had also tried to pressurize Trump a lot. They had used these very same government contracts to kind of make him put in a lot of silencing measures on X, which Trump is now wanting to use the same tactic. Even then, Elon had not folded, because he doesn't really care. He has multiple zones of, ensuring that his empire flourishes. Yes, the stocks have crashed, but I think US benefits from using Elon and his genius as much as Elon benefits from having exclusive contracts. So it is a double-edged sword. If you take away these contracts from Elon Musk and Starlink and the Dragon SpaceX program, it is going to hurt US itself as much as it would hurt Elon.
Yes, and Shruti, to bring an end to our discussion, let's look forward now. What next? Not just for this relationship, but also for Trump's image. We know he is the art of the deal. He's a businessman, and that's how he deals with diplomacy. But this implosion from someone who just recently was a key ally, how is this going to impact him moving forward during his presidency? So
the beauty of Trump is that he very easily rubbishes ego tussles as well. As much as he enjoys indulging in them, this particular meltdown between the two of them has all the hallmarks of one. But he also would rubbish it away. Oh, I never said that. Oh, it never meant that. And we've seen it happen time and again with his statements. He backtracks without even a blink. So in case these two powerful people, realize that, okay, maybe our own personal struggles have kind of impacted our businesses, and we should probably go back to at least, if not this kind of level of love, but at least a working relationship, they would just simply backtrack. No, we didn't mean that. It was construed out of context. So it is easy for Trump. He might just take it back, but also he would probably never enter into a relationship as familiar as he was, like as a familial relationship, him being at their house in the Oval Office. It would probably never go back to that level, but a working relationship between the two is still possible because these two people know how to put their egos aside and look at profits.
Yes, Shri Das Gupta, thank you ever so much for joining us and providing that insight. This feud is still rolling on, and we will continue to bring you all of the updates as they happen. We move on now though, and US President Donald Trump says he has not yet decided whether to impose new sanctions on Russia, currently under consideration in the US Senate. The proposed bill would impose stiff sanctions on Russia and secondary sanctions on countries that trade with Russia over its war in Ukraine. Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, Trump said he would enforce the measures if he believes they are necessary. Here is what the US president said.
You know the bill, I study the bill, we're to see. And if I think Russia will not be making a deal, stopping the bloodshed, 5 and 6 even, I've been saying 5 and 6 and now it's more, 1,000 a week, soldiers being killed and people being killed, not just soldiers, people being killed, but largely soldiers being killed. I use it if it's necessary, and they've really given me that option.
Well, back in Europe, Russia has launched a major overnight attack on the eastern Ukrainian city of Kharkiv. According to the city's mayor, Igor Terekov, 2 people have been killed and at least 40 explosions were heard throughout the city. Kharkiv's regional governor, Oleg Sinagobov, confirmed that 7 people were also injured in the attack. In recent weeks, Russian troops have reportedly accelerated their advance, while the latest negotiations in Istanbul failed to broker an end to the more than 3-year war. This comes after Russia launched an intense missile and drone barrage at the Ukrainian capital Kyiv on Friday, killing at least 6 people and wounding another 80. The attacks followed a warning from Russian President Vladimir Putin, conveyed via US President Donald Trump, that the Kremlin would hit back after Ukrainian drones destroyed several strategic bomber aircraft in attacks deep inside Russia. We move to trade now, and tensions between the world's 2 biggest economies may be easing, at least for now. US President Donald Trump says a fresh round of trade talks with China will be held in London next week. This comes right after Trump's rare phone call with Chinese President Xi Jinping, a move aimed at diffusing a long-running tariff war. The president announced that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, and US Trade Representative Jameson Greer will lead the US team in Monday's talks. This will be the second round of talks since both countries imposed sweeping tariffs with US duties on some Chinese goods, once hitting as high as 145%. After temporary relief last month, tensions flared again with Trump accusing China of backtracking on a deal. But in a major development, Trump says Xi has now agreed to allow rare earth minerals and magnets to flow to the US, a crucial point in the standoff. While both sides talk of progress, the final resolution remains uncertain.
We're very far advanced on the China deal. We wanted clarification. We had to have clarification. There's a bumpy up there, but we had to have clarification. And that's what we're really having to be about. We had a very good talk. I talked to President Xi for, I guess, more than 2 hours. We had a very good talk. It's a complicated deal, but it's a deal that's, bring us a lot of money and a lot of everything else. And we get along very well with President Xi and with China.
Well, joining us to dive into these relations that have fluctuated is Dr. Jayjat Bhattacharya, President at the Centre for Domestic Economy Policy Research. Thank you very much, Dr. Bhattacharya, for being here with us. This really could be seen as a U-turn given the level of escalation in a trade war that has hit the economy and hit both countries as well. Do you think that these comments from Trump are just rhetoric, or is this a real shift in US-China trade relations?
As I mentioned, in this broadcast earlier also, is that, look, US is a democracy and voices will be heard very clearly. So both the US economy and the Chinese economy are under tremendous pressure. But as a political entity, the US administration will be under a much higher pressure because it's open to scrutiny and it's open to voices from within the US economy, including the industries and so on and so forth. The US automobile industry has almost come down to its knees because of the freeze on export of rare earth magnets from US and from China. And that entire amount is just $70 million. So choking $70 million of supply from China to US has brought down the US down to its knees. And clearly there are several repercussions to that. Automobiles is one of the largest employers in US. It contributes to about 20% of the GDP, given that it consumes enormous amount of metal and wires and so on and so forth. So clearly the pressure on the US administration was far more than the pressure on the Chinese administration, although both the economies were suffering. And so, yes, there seems to be a U-turn from the US side. And clearly it was US which reached out to the Chinese administration. So from the facts that seems to be on the table, there is a U-turn from the US administration side.
Yes, Dr. Bhattacharya, after that meeting in Geneva where we saw triple-digit tariffs on some goods drop down to just double-digit, there were accusations of breaches of that deal made in Geneva. Do you think that will have any impact on conversations that will take place next week in London?
There will be, because, if you look at historically, China does not seem to be upholding its international commitments, and that has been repetitively done. If you look at what happened in the last 3 months, in early April, China choked on rare earth metals along with everything else and rare earth magnets. And one of the reasons the US government reached out to China on 12th of May was on a quid pro quo basis that they will remove this choke on rare earth magnets. And China did remove it by 16th of May and then promptly put it back in a few days. So clearly they reneged on what they're committed to the US government, and therefore the US government is quite wary and circumspect of what the Chinese are committing to and what they actually do. And since a lot of it is not really written in a piece of paper, a lot of it is verbal commitments, verbal quid pro quo. So I think what will unravel in the UK conversations between the US administration and the Chinese administration is, I think, a bit more concrete, bit more conversation laden with suspicion. So it'll be interesting to see what is the outcome of that discussion.
Yes, absolutely. We know that the United States and Donald Trump reached out to China. We know that Trump, of course, has said multiple times that these Liberation Day tariffs and reciprocal tariffs have been a tool to get nations that they trade with to come to the negotiating table. But given Trump's stance on trade, is this an admission of defeat by Trump, or is this just the art of the deal at play?
To begin with, well, the US was putting about 2 to 3% tariff on goods being imported into US, and that's being reset to 10%. The point is that reset could have been done straight away, and nations would have probably agreed to it because 10% is more palatable than a complete disruption for last 3 months. Almost a quarter went away in the trade disruption. That's 1/4 of the year gone, and clearly that's a huge impact in terms of GDPs, in terms of productivity. See, if you look at just US and China together, because that was where the most amount of disruption happened, they constitute about 40% of the global GDP. Trade between them is about $600 billion. That's a huge amount of disruption that happened, which has had repercussions all over the world. China started dumping those goods elsewhere, including into India, and therefore Indian industry started suffering. So clearly this was not the right way of doing a negotiation, which is so sensitive. If one wants to change the overall ship and one wants to abandon WTO, because clearly none of this falls under the WTO regime, then one should have stated that upfront and had discussions to that effect. And maybe in 6 months to 7 months, the same objective could have been achieved without the amount of disruption that happened in the last so many months.
Yes, and Dr. Bhattacharya, building on that disruption that you've mentioned, what will be the real life impacts for people and businesses in both China and the US if this tariff and trade war can be resolved? How will it impact the everyday person?
If you look at the US government website on trade, from February onwards, till February, the trade with China was growing, and then it just started falling off like a bottomless pit, and it's continuing to fall. And what does that mean is that there will be less number of manufacturing happening, and I'm only talking about goods, because there are other repercussions. There is repercussion in terms of money flow into US because of students getting into US. There's repercussions in terms of investments going into US, in terms of real estate being purchased in US with foreign money, and so on and so forth. So I'm not even talking about those flows. I'm just talking about the trade, the goods trade. There has been significant drop in the merchandise export. So therefore, that many number of jobs would have got reduced in US. And similarly, that many number of jobs would have got reduced in China. More importantly, it would lead to stressed assets on both sides. What that really means is that the corporations would have taken loans or would have taken some form of capital, and they will not be in a position to return it. And typically it will be MSMEs who are getting hit, the small and medium enterprises who are getting hit. And therefore, once they go belly up, and they can go belly up very, very quickly because their capacity to withstand such disruptions is very limited. And once they go belly up, that capacity is gone. That ability to generate jobs is gone forever. And that really is a problem and the pain that we faced on both sides in US and in China.
Dr. Jayjat Bhattacharya, thank you ever so much for providing your expertise and insight. All eyes will be on that meeting in London early next week, and we of course will bring you all of those updates. We move on now, but we stay with China-North American relations. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says Ottawa is taking a first step towards rebuilding ties with China. Speaking on Friday, Carney said his phone call with Chinese Premier Li Qiang marked the start of a process to recalibrate the relationship. Ties between Ottawa and Beijing have been strained for years, and trade has been a key point of tension. Carney said China is Canada's second largest trading partner, but farmers and fishers across the country have been hit hard by Chinese tariffs. He also raised the issue of fentanyl smuggling, saying it's a major concern for Canadians. The two sides have now agreed to launch ministerial-level talks on trade and other disputes. Let's hear what Mark Carney had to say.
This is the start of a process of recalibrating the relationship with China. It's very important that we reopen dialogue with Chinese authorities for several reasons, but I'll focus on a few. They are our second largest trading partner, the second largest trading partner for Canada. We have a number of trade disputes with China. Farmers across this country, fishers across this country are being affected by Chinese tariffs. people across this country have been affected by fentanyl and its precursors. Those are issues I raised directly, and we spoke at length about our concerns there, and have initiated processes, including ministerial level dialogue on trade and other issues. So there are important issues with China that we need to address.
We leave North America and head to the Middle East, where Israel's military has confirmed the deaths of 4 soldiers in Gaza as the country continues its intensified offensive in the enclave. Military spokesman Brigadier General Efi Defrin has said that the soldiers were killed while operating in a Hamas-owned compound in the Khan Yunis area. According to Defrin, an explosive device detonated at around 6 a.m. local time, causing part of the structure to collapse. 5 other soldiers were injured in the blast, including one in a serious condition. Meanwhile, Gaza's Civil Defense Agency reports that 38 people were killed in Israeli attacks across the territory on Friday. Among the dead were 11 people killed in a single strike on Jabalia in northern Gaza, according to local officials. Israel's army has also revealed it is facing a shortage of soldiers, with over 10,000 needed, including approximately 6,000 combat troops. General Defrin stressed that this is a genuine operational need and that the military is taking all necessary steps to address the gap, including moves to conscript ultra-Orthodox Jews into the army. We stay in the region, and tensions are escalating on the Israel-Lebanon border after Israel's defense minister warned that there will be no calm in Beirut unless Hezbollah is disarmed. This comes after the largest Israeli airstrike on Beirut since last year's ceasefire. Israeli jets targeted Beirut's southern suburbs, a Hezbollah stronghold, destroying at least 9 buildings. Israel claims the strikes hit drone factories, a claim Hezbollah has denied. Lebanon's president called the strikes a flagrant violation of the ceasefire and urged the US and France to intervene. The Lebanese army says ongoing Israeli attacks are undermining its role in enforcing the truce and warned that cooperation monitoring Hezbollah could be suspended if strikes continue. Moving on, and tensions between the United States and Iran are escalating once again over Tehran's nuclear program. Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, US President Donald Trump issued a stark warning regarding Iran's uranium program. Let's hear what he said.
Well, they won't be enriching. If they enrich, then we're going to have to do it the other way, and I don't really want to do it the other way, but we're going to have to.
What's your latest?
There's not going to be enriching.
Well, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, responded firmly on Wednesday, calling any halt to uranium enrichment 100% against the country's interests, a direct rejection of a key US demand. Meanwhile, diplomatic efforts continue. Oman, acting as a mediator, presented a new US proposal for a nuclear agreement to Iran last weekend. The offer comes amid ongoing talks involving Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and President Trump's Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff. The coming days will be critical in determining whether diplomacy can prevail or whether the standoff will deepen. Well, that's all we have time for, but we will continue to bring you more of the latest news from across the world.